So, we're going to get to our breaking news because people are still in dire straits. The situation is improving, but it's going to be a long haul for the folks in Texas. More than 300,000 people are still in the dark, and they're freezing tonight in Texas. After some of the coldest weather in decades knocked out many of the state's power plants. But now some 13 million Texans are running out of water. Can you imagine? Houston, Austin, San Antonio, warning residents to boil their water. Hospitals, fire departments, running low. The Department of Health and Human Services declaring a public health emergency in Texas. And in the middle of all this, there's Senator Ted Cruz and his really bad decision to take a trip to Cancun in the middle of a disaster in his home state of Texas. Stopping by Sean Hannity's show tonight to get a pat on the back.
I think you can be a father and be the senator of Texas all at the same time and make a round trip, quick drop-off trip and come home.
Well, Sean, that's right.
Okay. But his story is unraveling tonight, as he admits. It was never supposed to be a one-day trip to drop off his daughters. That was a lie. You really just have to watch it. Here it is.
We left yesterday. The plan had been to stay through the weekend with the family. That was the plan. I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane, because on the one hand, all of us who are parents have a responsibility to take care of our kids, take care of our family. That's something Texans have been doing across the state. But I also have a responsibility that I take very seriously of fighting for the state of Texas and frankly, leaving when so many Texans were hurting didn't feel right, and so I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take. I couldn't take a morning flight because the current restrictions require a COVID test. So I had to get a COVID test this morning before I could get on a flight back, so I took the first flight I could get after getting the COVID test and testing negative.
Maybe line Ted. I mean, that was maybe the right mind for him. Saying. So he admits it was never supposed to be a one-day trip. He admits he realized it was a bad idea. Right around the time people started taking pictures of him and shooting videos. And his excuse for not getting on the very next flight was that he had to take a COVID test. Which is kind of what's going to happen when you take a vacation in the middle of a pandemic with your kids and your wife during the middle of a pandemic. Good fathering. Good parenting. Come on now. The senator is slinking back to Texas tonight. You see him here. He's on board his flight. And this exclusive video from a passenger who asked to remain anonymous. And here he is getting off the flight with a police escort. By the way, if Cruz wasn't traveling, those officers might have been assigned to help people in the community who really need it. Except they're escorting him to and from and through the airport. A source telling CNN that some senior aides didn't even know the senator flew down to Mexico with his family until the pictures turned up on social media. But the text from the senator's wife, Heidi, well, they tell a different story. The New York Times is reporting that she texted friends and neighbors just yesterday saying this. Their house was, quote, freezing, and suggesting a getaway until Sunday at the Ritz-Carlton, where they stayed many times. I'll tell you why I'm pointing that out, the Ritz-Carlton, why I said it that way. Noting that the room rate was $309 a night, and saying there's good security. And on top of that, now Ted Cruz has blown up his explanation that the trip was just about being a good dad, and I quote here, "With school canceled for the week, our girls asked to take a trip with friends. Wanting to be a good dad, I flew down with them last night and am flying back this afternoon." Sure. What good dad wouldn't drop his kids off at a beach in Mexico in the middle of a pandemic. Well, the people he represents are freezing in their homes and lining up for food and water. What dad wouldn't do that? Come on. There are people all over Texas, hundreds of thousands of them, who would love to take their kids someplace warm. On this show tonight, we have two families with 8 children between them who would have loved to have gotten them someplace warm as quickly as possible, someplace safe, someplace where they have drinkable water, a bathroom that they can use, heat. Instead, hundreds of thousands of people are trapped in very dangerous conditions, and their elected leaders are talking out of both sides of their mouths. Like when Ted Cruz said this was just Monday.
Don't risk it. Keep your family safe and just stay home and hug your kids.
I mean, you can't even. Ted Cruz, who says, stay at home and hug your kids. I want you to meet Ted Cruz. Will you meet Ted Cruz? Who flies his daughters to Mexico. Not a good look. Kind of what what's the word I'm looking for? Hypocritical. Kind of like the hypocrisy the senator was so upset about when it was a Democrat. Austin Mayor Steve Adler went to Mexico in December after hosting his daughter's wedding. He criticized the mayor of Austin for going to Mexico. But then Ted Cruz goes to Mexico. While the CDC says travelers should avoid all travel to Mexico. He's an elected official. Avoid all travel to Mexico. Senator elected by the people. CNN's K-File dug up a bunch more examples of Ted Cruz's do as I say, not as I do attitude toward other politicians taking vacations. Telling then Governor Chris Christie to go back to the beach after the outrage over Christie's trip to a closed state beach with his family while New Jersey's government was shut down. Criticizing former President Barack Obama for spending what he thought was too much time on the golf course.
If only the terrorist attacked a golf course. That might actually get the White House's attention. Holy cow!
I mean, how dare he play not even as much golf as Donald Trump in 8 years as Donald Trump played in 4. Wow. How dare he? I wonder why he criticized him. Criticizing the former president for playing pool.
Apparently playing a game of pool is a higher priority for this president than it would be to go and see the humanitarian crisis he's created.
Forget there's always videotape. Or a tweet. And there's more. Ted Cruz accusing the then president of not being focused on people who are hurting.
He is not focused on the people who are hurting, who are paying the cost for his failed policies.
It's like looking in a mirror, isn't it? And then there's Ted Cruz, the martyr, who says, let's not take any recesses. Let's work every day.
It's crazy that we'd be taking a recess. There are a bunch of us, myself included, that have been urging leadership back from January. Let's not take any recesses. Let's work every day. Let's work weekends. Let's work till we get the job done.
Maybe that doesn't mean during a crisis in your state where people are freezing with no electricity and water. So, I mean, yeah, he didn't specifically say that. So, well, not every day, I guess. You know, not while it's freezing in Texas and the balmy in Cancun. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do. People in trouble rely on their elected officials to help, to be there on the ground when disaster strikes. And Ted Cruz used to know that, or at least he seemed to in this campaign ad.
When disaster struck, Texans came together, helping each other, everyone doing their part. Like Ted Cruz, who brought home billions in disaster relief and passed emergency tax relief for those hit by Hurricane Harvey.
No official, state or federal, has been more involved in the recovery of Galveston County than Senator Ted Cruz.
When the hurricane hit, you stood up for Texas, and Ted Cruz stood up for you.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this message.
So much empathy. A man of the people. You know what's standing up for the people of Texas? How about being there alongside them, Senator? Helping to get water to desperate Texans. Like these folks in Houston, lining up for water from a park spigot. How about helping local governments coordinate with each other? Working to get more resources from Washington. You know Washington very well. That's where you are. That's where you work. You can help. You know a few people there. You know, do the kind of things that Ted Cruz was elected to do. Yes. A U.S. senator who represents Texas. And the people of Texas have a right to expect you to have their backs. I want everyone to remember that this is a man who loves calling out elites and libs. That's why I said I'll tell you why it was a Ritz-Carlton, whatever. Elites. So, I guess flying off to Mexico to go to the Ritz-Carlton while everybody's suffering, that's not elite. The elites make you do it. Maybe it was a squad. I don't know. Well, those text messages from the New York Times show Heidi Cruz trying to get their neighbors from one of the richest neighborhoods in Houston to go to a country the CDC says travelers should avoid. Talk about America first. Did they go to Miami? Did they go to Fort Lauderdale? Did they go to the Keys? Did they go, visit Mar-a-Lago? Nope. Not America first, Mexico. We all know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Why are they even traveling at all? And then trying to blame it on their kids. You call that being a good dad? It's not what I call being a good dad. It's infuriating. It's hypocritical. Again, Maya Angelou said it. When people show you who they are, believe them. We shouldn't forget in all of this, though. It's really about hundreds of thousands of people who are freezing in their own homes with no power, pipes broken, 13 million running out of water, people lining up in a park to get water. How long will all of this go on? We're live in Texas for you. That's next.